The IEA have officially described what we are living through right now as the worst oil crisis in history. So,
for the love of God, please tell me that all of you have seen the video now of the alien that was captured on the Ring camera in California.
Work, work, work. Unexpected bill, unexpected bill, unexpected bill. Debt, 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 debt. Work, work. Pay off debt. Work, work, work.
the IEA have officially described what we are living through right now as the worst oil crisis in history. So why doesn't it feel like it? Well, that answer is kind of terrifying. You see, this is journalist Max Fisher, and he's just done an incredible analysis on the one major thing most people don't think about during times of war: the speed of boats. Turns out though, it's incredibly important because these huge skyscraper-sized oil tankers transport millions of barrels of oil around the world each day at a speed of about 10 to 15 knots. That's the speed of riding a bike. Now imagine if we relied on someone riding a bike to bring our oil all the way from the Middle East to Europe. We'd be waiting weeks or months for them to cycle here. But that's the pace that the global oil supply chain operates at. So when a major disruption happens, like in the Strait of Hormuz, the impact isn't felt immediately. There are still hundreds of these ships still in transport that left before the war kicked off, and they haven't even reached their destinations in Europe, Asia, and the United States yet. But when those last pre-crisis shipments do arrive, which is around this month, after that, there's nothing behind it. That is when the world really starts to feel the disruption in the market.
The idea that our entire economy is relying on a floating oil reserve is pretty terrifying right now. At least the timing of it is going to be in the summer months or the warmer months of the year. So if people are heating their homes with fuel oil, they won't freeze to death at this point in time. But that kind of makes you stop and think for a minute. Is that just another piece to the puzzle that says that this is all being done by design?
For the love of God, please tell me that all of you have seen the video now of the alien that was captured on the Ring camera in California. Now, if you haven't seen this video, it's the clearest video we've gotten so far of an extraterrestrial just wandering around on Earth. Now, this video has actually gotten so much traction that it's made it to mainstream news. Now, sometimes I don't believe the things mainstream news puts out there because, come on, it's mainstream news. They're meant to deceive you and point you in the direction that your government wants you to go in. But this video is quite amazing. Now, if you haven't seen it, I'm going to show it to you. But a Ring camera, a lady in California caught this on her Ring camera at 1 a.m. You can listen to the interaction back and forth with her and her child. I'm going to show you the video, but tell me what you think of this because this is pretty cool. In that interview, she says then her son was like, "It's an alien, call the cops." She's like, "I'm not going to call the cops. They'll think I'm crazy." But this was captured on film. Now check this angle. What do you think? Is this the first time you've seen this video? Because I will tell you this, more and more stuff is going to start showing up. And we tried to tell you.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm disappointed that we didn't get to see maybe a longer, more full version of the video. But the little bit that we did see, the movement of the alien, it didn't look real to me. It looked artificial, like maybe AI generated. It is kind of glitchy looking to me.
If you got the eyes to see. That is a whole bridge. Does that look like a natural formation to you? Is that natural? What about here? Are we believing this is natural? You got an entryway, you got a small door, you got some rebar sticking out. I mean, that is a whole dome up top. I think it's pretty clear what this looks like. And now over here, giant castle. Look at the melted doorways, look at the vertical saturated lines. The top of this building, you can see a spire. Now right here, come on, this one's obvious. Perfectly right angles, archways, openings, anything but natural. A lot of these places have pockets of survival. And you can see the remains, and once you see it everywhere, especially in the places that they claim were carved out of stone, like Petra or Cappadocia. Personally, I think Cappadocia could have been the real Tower of Babel. They found that this place actually goes so far as 18 stories deep, and 80% of it is still unexplored. I'm pretty sure the whole thing was above ground at one point. An advanced civilization trying to usurp God, and then we got all these different languages. Now, the structures at sites like these, they get marshmallowed, crisped, smoked on the outside, and yet inside they're completely preserved. In Psalms it says, the hills melted like wax at the presence of Yahweh. And that's exactly what it looks like. You think they made these fancy brick arches inside and then made the outside look like crap? And then you look at places like this, I see skyscrapers. Look here in Italy, Russia, Turkey, all the same thing. We see the same style of stacking everywhere. What we have is a real Sodom and Gomorrah fire from the sky event. And these places melted like wax and then likely washed away after. Now let's take a look at the Grand Canyon. Sphinx in Egypt, Sphinx at the Grand Canyon. This is a whole face on a structure. Yeah, and they even tell you all these sites are called pyramids and temples named after their false gods. Now why would they do that? Because they know, and that's why so many of these areas are restricted. Go see my video on the Grand Canyon. This could have been the original Egypt. They lie about everything. Now what about over here in Pakistan? It's no doubt once you see it, you can't unsee it. Something crazy happened in our past. Earthquakes, fire from the sky, floods, cataclysms. There has been so much erased from our history, but it's all hidden in plain sight.
A lot of them buildings to me were definitely ancient buildings of some sort. I can't say that all of them looked like buildings to me, but there were definitely some, and that might explain why we can't go to the Grand Canyon and access parts of it because the government won't let us. Something happened in the past, and whatever that is that happened, in my opinion, it's going to happen again. That's why they don't want us to know about our past, because it's also going to become around again as a cycle in the future.
The moon's real?
No, absolutely not. The Dogon tribe in Africa talks about the time before the moon. Literally, there was a time before the moon, which means what? Which means the moon was implanted there. It was not made by, quote unquote, the original OG God. It was implanted there, and like literally there's a whole science about how it connects to Saturn and how it's literally like an energy suck station, how it's influencing the water and the magnetism of the reproductive cycle, the hormonal cycle. We're 70-something% water. If it affects the ocean, is it affecting us? Absolutely. And what's inside the earth, right?
But Saturn, huh? I feel like I've heard that Saturn is like Satan or something. It's like also the word, I don't know, I've heard like that. And when you listen to Saturn, I don't know if you've ever heard of the sort of the tone that comes from each planet, but when you get to Saturn, it sounds like hell.
Yeah, I've heard of the tones that the planets emit. I haven't particularly sat and listened to Saturn, but yeah, I'm not scared. Like, maybe I'll listen to it, yeah. But yeah, absolutely. Like the Saturn is communicating with the moon, and there's like a connection there, and it's pulling energy, and there was a time before the moon, which means it was planted there.
There's so many facts about the moon that don't make sense to occur naturally. For example, how is the moon exactly the right size to cover the entire surface of the sun from our perspective when there's an eclipse? And when you hit the moon really hard with, like, say, I think the government slammed into it with like a missile or satellites crashed into it. They did something on purpose, and it resonated like a bell because it's pretty much hollow. And from what we know, things in space don't form and leave the center hollow. Something artificial would have had to have taken place to create that.
Okay. So let's get back to the underwater bases, since these are these photos. So this is, I guess in an episode you spoke of having to do procedures underwater. And could you explain why? Like, why would you not just put the being in a tank and operate them in a regular room? Why would you have to be underwater as well?
Well, some of the beings come from water worlds, and there's a lot of beings that live here. We call them like aquafarians. Is kind of the code we use for that. They live here already. They've been living here a long time, but we do have visitors that also come from very far away. That their ships have liquid in them of all different sorts of materials. This specific one, it looks like a mermaid man with little fins. There's sometimes that you cannot, people are like, well, why can't you use those big tubes? And like, because you don't have the visualization, number one. So we actually have operating rooms as big as this room, filled with seawater, that we walk into with these suits and take samples, because the bodies have to be kept in the water or they'll deteriorate with pure oxygen on the surface.
So that's why we cannot, use these little capsules and stuff. You have to be ambidextrous here. You're talking very small instruments and things like that. This is a good depiction of that. And we have these special boots that keep us, they're magnetic, that keep us on the ground. Everything is contained in the suit. And this is just one of the artist renditions that I depicted for them for this procedure. So it has everything an operating room would have. It's just, it's underwater.
How many times did you have to do an underwater procedure like that? Did you do them often?
No, maybe 5% of the ones that I did, you had to do in some sort of liquid or water.
Okay.
What do you guys think? Is he believable? His name's Emery Smith, and I've listened to a lot of his stories over the years, and I want to believe him, but they're so out there. What do you think?
According to the Invention Secrecy Act of 1951, if you were building an energy device that could reach over 20%, then you should be reporting the device to the Department of Energy, and they will determine whether or not the device will be put under their Secrecy Act and never used ever again. This explains a lot of problems that we have been having as a society in terms of evolving with our energy crisis. So the ether tap circuit is very plausible. The only problem I'm going to have would be the Secrecy Act if I were to patent it and product that patent. So for my next video, I will be open sourcing my dodecatron generator for everybody to download and use for themselves. If you double the elements in terms of surface area on the generator, you will quadruple your power output because of the size of the magnets that is being used on the generator and the thickness of the wire. And then I will be using that generator to activate the ether tap circuit. The generator can also be constructed in 3-phase or 6-phase output. And once again, the files for this generator will be available on my website, friendbeacon.com. Be sure to sign up and send me a friend request. Peace.
I'm pretty sure if this guy has actually figured out how to get free energy and he's offering to put it out there like that as like an open source, we probably would be seeing a lot more TikToks with people showing their free energy devices. But I will tell you that that guy talks like this would be just a walk in the park. Like, hey, I'm going to tell you how to do it. Just go ahead and do it. And there you go. This guy's really smart. Like, if you ever watch his videos, you'll know what I mean. It would take a mind like his to understand probably how to assemble one of these things. But hey, if one of you have a mind that's capable of building one of these devices and you want to see how, let me know and I'll see if I can't dig into some more information and try to get it to you.
$13.99 for a goddamn watermelon.
For $11 for shredded cheese? Are you kidding me?
You know, that's organic or whatever. Still, you have 96.4 for $8 a fucking pound. What the fuck's going on?
12.99. I know these ain't the damn.
Tell me I'm tripping. When the did this cereal become $8?
Bro, $3.50 for this, bro. This used to be 98 cents.
Like spaghetti sauce, and it's $11.99. Wow.
That's crazy. $10.99 for some fucking eggs.
Now this has got to be a freaking typo, because $10 for a bag of apples.
These tiny ass pizzas are $1.48. I remember a time where those little pizzas were like 25 cents a piece. You get 4 for $1, but they were called Mr. P's pizza.
So let me get this straight. Work, $80 in gas, work, groceries, keep myself alive. Bounce house, $250. Work, unexpected bill, debt, work, pay off debt, work, pay off mistake from 5 years ago, pay off more debt, work, be tired, work some more, work more. I'm tired of donating my life. Work and pay bills and work and pay off debt. I'm paying off mistakes from years ago. Who gives a crap if you're tired? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares if you're tired. The bills don't care. Work and pay bills and work and pay debt and work and pay bills and work 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 and work.
I feel terrible for that guy, but the reality is that we're all kind of living in it and experiencing it together. What are some of the frustrations that you've been experiencing? Let us know in the comments.
Welcome to part 2 of the real reason that we invaded Iraq, because you and I have been lied to our entire lives. In part 1, we talked about how an archaeologist discovered the ancient city of Uruk in modern-day Iraq, and then he discovered the tomb of Gilgamesh, and coincidentally, a few months after, we invaded Iraq. Well, buckle up, because this goes so much deeper than just his tomb. Now for this video, we have to go back to the days immediately following the flood, and this brings us to Genesis 10. Genesis 10 is the genealogy of Noah. Genesis 10:1 tells us that the 3 sons of Noah were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Down it says Ham had Cush, and then Cush had Nimrod. So Nimrod in the Bible is Noah's great-grandson. Now why am I talking about Nimrod? Because Nimrod is Gilgamesh. In the Bible, we learn that Nimrod established a very large kingdom. He was essentially the first king of the world, and it also says that he ruled over all of the other sons of Noah. Now, because of this, there were many different peoples that would write about Nimrod. It was their personal account of who Nimrod was. The Babylonians wrote about him, the Assyrians wrote about him, the Hittites wrote about him. It says even in Palestine, tablets have been found with this man's name on them. He was obviously the most popular hero in the ancient Near East. And of course, the Sumerians wrote about him in the Epic of Gilgamesh. I'm going to go back to Genesis 10 to find out about Nimrod's kingdom. This is Genesis 10:8, and it says up at the top, he began to be a mighty one on the earth. We'll go back to that verse later. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Therefore it is said, like Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. Verse 10, and the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, Erech, Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar. That's southern Mesopotamia. From that land, he went to Assyria and built Nineveh, and there's more. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce them. Let's bring that verse to life a little bit. Here is a visual of Nimrod's kingdom. Down here, we have the Tower of Babel. We have Uruk, where he was found, or Erech in the Bible. The city of Ur, which is actually where Abraham was born, and then the land of Shinar. So pretty large kingdom. We're going to go back to Genesis 10:8 because it says he began to be a mighty one on the earth. This is the exact same phrase that God uses when he describes the giants in Genesis 6. So it says, there were giants on the earth in those days and also afterwards. So God is specifically telling us that the giants, these demonic hybrid beings, survived the flood. When the sons of God came into the daughters of man and they bore children to them, those were mighty men who were of old, men of renown.
A 16-inch concrete wall, painted black, with a sheet of glass in front of it. No furnace behind it. No wiring running to it. No fuel feeding it. That wall heats a house in the French Pyrenees and has supplied 70% of its yearly heating from sunlight alone since 1967. It has never been serviced. It has never been replaced. It has never sent anyone a monthly bill. Your HVAC system costs $8,000 to $15,000 to install and needs replacing every 12 to 15 years. That wall is 58 years old and still working. The patent for this design was filed in 1881, number 246,626. An American inventor named Edward Morse. The title was 4 words longer than it needed to be, warming and ventilating apartments by the sun's rays. The physics in that patent has not changed by a single variable since, and the wall it describes can still replace the most expensive system in your house. Nobody built on Morse's work. Nobody cited it. Nobody remembered it existed. 80 years later, a French engineer named Felix Trombe and architect Jacques Michel arrived at the same design independently and built that house in Odeillo. The wall was named after Trombe. The man who got there first was forgotten, not because he was wrong, because no one who sells heating equipment had any reason to remember him. They called it a Trombe wall, and for about a decade after it was built, it looked like it might change how the world heats buildings. It did not because it stopped working, because nobody who sells heating equipment makes money from a wall that does the job for free.
It is crazy that there is such a simple solution to saving us all of this dependency that we have on oil to heat our homes, because we rely on oil whether we burn it to heat our homes or we're using electrical heat, because the electrical heat comes from the power grid, and the power grid pretty much also runs on diesel. So that would explain why we probably never heard about this, because whoever controls the fuel oil would probably be pretty interested in keeping that quiet. All right, guys, out of all the clips, which one do you think was the craziest? Drop your theories down in the comments below. If you liked what you saw, make sure you hit like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Until next time, question everything.